It's after 5, and I've noticed that we now do have a quorum. And so if it's okay with everyone else, I'm going to get started here. Welcome. It's great to see everyone's faces. I mean, it's always good to see you in person, but we're fully back to virtual because of some COVID cases, and not only within our agency and organization, but as the cases rise throughout the state and our region, we're, out of an abundance of caution, we're fully back to virtual. So we have a virtual meeting today and everybody's back to the boxes, and it's great to see everyone. So welcome to our meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the regular board of directors meeting for San Diego Community Power for the month of July. And I'm going to start with an introduction. We have a brand new employee that just started and is our newest member of our team, and her name is Sandra Vences, and she's up there with Kimberly.
Right here.
Welcome, Sandra. Everybody wave to Sandra and say welcome.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for joining our team, and I look forward to meeting you one day too, in person.
Likewise.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move to Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone can join me in a pledge to our flag. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kimberly, can we do a roll call?
City of San Diego representative.
LaCava, present.
County of San Diego representative. Imperial Beach representative.
Present.
La Mesa representative.
Faber, present.
National City representative.
Sotelo Solis, present.
Chula Vista representative. Encinitas representative.
Joe Mosca here.
We have a quorum.
Great. All right. Are there any changes to the posted agenda? All right, so this is, let's move to public comment, and this is the opportunity for anybody in the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of this board. So Kimberly, do we have anybody that wants to address our board of directors?
There are no written comments and there are no hands raised.
All right, let's move to the consent calendar. We have the consent calendar before you. Anybody want to pull any item or change anything to the consent calendar? I see Director LaCava's hand up. Director LaCava? You're on mute, so I can't hear you.
Sorry. I don't want to pull anything, but if it's the right time, I would make a motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda. And just a quick comment, I want to thank Aaron and the entire team for the budget policy that is now on consent. Spent time working on that. I think that we got that to the right place. And so again, move the consent agenda.
Thank you, Director LaCava. All right, and we have a second with Director Dedina. Kimberly, do we have any public comment on this item?
There are no written comments and no hands raised.
All right, let's move to voting on this item.
Director Baber, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Dedina, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director LaCava, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Sotelo Solis, how do you vote?
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Chair Mosca, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries with all directors voting yes.
Kimberly, can you send Steve, Director Padilla, Vice Chair Padilla, the link to the meeting? It looks like he may have an old link that's not working.
Okay.
All right. Let's move to the regular agenda, and we have the first item on that is item number 8, which is approval of the Community Advisory Committee, CAC. You know what? Let's take this out of order since this one actually is concerning Chula Vista. I'm going to move to actually item number 9, so that when we have Vice Chair Padilla on the line, he could actually potentially speak to this if he wants to. So let's move to item number 9, which is quarterly update on Community Advisory Committee. And Sebastian Serra will introduce, Sebastian will take this item or introduce our chair, Eddie Price.
Yes, that's correct, Chair. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Kimberly, next slide, please. Just a little bit of background, as the board knows, the CAC serves the primary purpose to advise the board of directors and provide for a venue for ongoing citizen support and engagement in the strategic direction, goals, and programs of STCP. And through direction from the chair, we are providing quarterly updates to the board on the activities that the CAC has made. The last update was provided at the April 28th Board of Directors regular meeting. And here's just a quick picture of when that update occurred. Next slide, Kimberly. At this moment, I want to recognize Chair Price. He'll go over the activities that occurred for the months of April, May, and June. And Chair Price, if you're so willing.
Yeah, I was just looking at my picture in the middle of the screen. I need to get some better shirts. Thank you, everyone, and hello, everyone. Eddie Price, Chair of the Community Advisory Committee. In April, we received an update on the CEO search, and that it concluded March. And we were notified that of the appointment of the now CEO, Karen Burns. The members in that committee that worked on the fiscal plan, updated plan, are Ada Castaneda and Gary Johns, Larry Emerson, and Anna Webb. The committee then received an update from the programs team on the development of the community power plan. In May, at this meeting, Karen, the CEO, introduced herself to the committee and was welcomed warmly and took initial questions from the members. We received an update on residential enrollment and public relations and how the ongoing enrollment of San Diego and Chula Vista residential customer accounts was going. And lastly, the community received an update on the development of the community power plan that we're very excited to be a part of working on. In June, we had voted to go back to in-person and hybrid meetings, but like the board's meetings, that's probably getting canceled. We also received another update on the phase 3 residential enrollment in public relations. And now we better understand how the enrollments of the cities of Chula Vista and San Diego went. And received another update on the development of the community power plan, again, which we are excited about and working with. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Chair Price. This is a receive and file, Chair Muska, and the next quarterly update will be provided at the October meeting of the Board of Directors.
Great. Thank you, Sebastian, and thank you, Chair Price.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions by members of the Board of Directors? Kimberly, do we have any members of the public that would like to comment on this item?
There are no written comments and no hands raised.
All right, well, it's a receive and file. I'll receive and file it and thank Sebastian and Eddie Price and all of the members of the Community Advisory Committee for all the work that they're doing for our agency. Thank you. All right, let's move to item number 10, which is update on regulatory and legislative affairs. And this is Lucas.
Chair Mosca, I do
yes.
have Vice Chair Padilla. I'm trying to promote him to panelist.
All
So
right,
do you want to go back to item
sure, let's do that. Let's go back to item number 8, which is approval of Community Advisory Committee appointment for Chula Vista. And Sebastian Serra is the staff member that's going to queue this up.
Thank you again, Chair Mosca. I'll briefly introduce this, then I'll pass it to Vice Chair Padilla. Next slide, please, Kimberly. Just a little bit of background. Staff and Director Padilla's office were notified that one of the Chula Vista CAC representatives was asking not to seek reappointment prior to his term expiring June 30th of this year. At that point, staff began soliciting applications through social media. Here you can see a picture of our activities. That process lasted around a month. And then Director Padilla had notified staff that he needed more time to review the applications and queuing it up for this meeting. Next slide, please. And then one last bit, if approved by the board, the appointee will occupy seat 3 of the CAC. And you can see a snippet of it here and also in your staff report. Director Padilla.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for Mr. Chairman and colleagues for your indulgence in having some technical issues on my end. I have no idea why. To include, I'm concerned, I'm hoping that you might, Sebastian, at some point, or with the help of my staff, forward to the board members Anthony's resume and CV to the members so they can get a bit of his background. And in fact, if Anthony's joining as a member of the public and is present, Mr. Chairman, you might give him a minute to introduce himself. But other than that, I would simply ask my colleagues to ratify my selection to join the CAC.
Sure. If Anthony is, I see his name. Anthony, did you want to say anything? You don't have to, but if you would like to.
Very briefly, I would say that chronologically, I'm a San Diego State Aztec and have been involved in developing DER projects, energy efficiency projects since around 2004. Have lived in Chula Vista since 2014 and have really looked for opportunities and places to serve the community. Appreciate the confidence of Council Member Director Padilla in nominating me for this position, and would really be honored to serve on the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Excellent. Thank you so much for stepping up, and thank you to Vice Chair Padilla for appointing you. Any members of the board would like to comment on this item? Kimberly, do we have any member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
Yes, Curtis Dowds has his hand raised.
Let's recognize Curtis.
Curtis, I have unmuted you and you have 3 minutes. Curtis?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't click on the unmute button. How would members of the public who are not serving on the Community Advisory Committee interact with its members? Do they meet formally at a certain time? And how would they receive comments from other members of the public?
Curtis, is that your public comment?
Yes.
All right,
That's a
perfect. All right, well, perfect. Thank you. I'll ask one of our staff members to give you some information on that. Sebastian,
Okay,
did you want to address that?
Yes, certainly, Chair. Mr. Dowds, you're more than welcome to attend our public CAC meetings. They are held every second Friday of the month at 1 p.m. You are able to submit public comment and also interact with your designated CAC representative, whether you live in one of our member jurisdictions. In order for you to sign up to receive the notifications for those meetings, just go on our website and sign up for our contact list. Also happy to connect with you further, but there are plenty of opportunities so we can get your feedback.
Karen, you had your hand up as well. Did you want to say anything?
I did. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I just really want to support Anthony Sclafani's candidacy for the CAC. He has a background that is going to be extremely useful and for us as an organization, especially as we work towards that goal of 15% of our local distributed energy resource development. So I'm very excited that Anthony has joined and I look forward to working with him. Thank you.
Great. All right. Vice Chair Padilla, did you want to move the appointment?
Will so move.
All right. Do we have a second on this motion?
I'll second.
All right. We have a second by Director LaCava. And so let's vote.
Director Baber, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Dedina, how do you vote?
Deny.
Director LaCava, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Sotelo Solis, how do you vote?
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Vice Chair Padilla, how do you vote? Vice Chair Padilla, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair Mosca, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries with all directors voting yes.
Congratulations, Tony. Thank you so much. All right, let's move to, we've done item 8, 9. We're going to move to item number 10, which is the update on regulatory and legislative affairs. And this is Lucas Yetu and Ty Tonsel.
Great, thank you, Chair Mosca. Wanted to discuss with you all today SDG&E's recent rate decrease. Kimberly, if you could advance to the first slide, be helpful, thank you. I'm going to provide a little bit of the background and then the regulatory perspective on this item, and then Lucas will address the remainder of the item regarding SDCP's actions. And so, as you may have heard, SDG&E submitted an advice letter requesting a rate decrease. They filed this letter back in the middle of May, and they filed what is called a Tier 1 advice letter. There are 3 tiers of advice letter, and pardon the foray into regulatory procedure, but I'm going to need to do so briefly. There are 3 tiers of advice letter. The top tier receives the most scrutiny, Tier 3, and requires a commission resolution. The second tier down is sort of a middle level scrutiny. And then this advice letter was a Tier 1 advice letter, which is the lowest level of scrutiny for advice letters at the Public Utilities Commission. It's appropriate for ministerial actions, and these advice letters can be effective pending disposition. They can be effective when the author of the advice letter indicates, as SDG&E did in their advice letter. We filed a protest to this advice letter shortly after it was filed at the end of May, along with Clean Energy Alliance, and we pointed out a number of things about it. The first and most important concern that we had with it was that SDG&E used a sales forecast figure for its revenue requirement that was outdated, and this caused a reduction in their rates where there might not otherwise be one. We also pointed out that the advice letter should not have been designated Tier 1, but Tier 2 due to the nature of the relief being requested in it. And then we also pointed out that the adoption of the advice letter will lead to an undercollection on the part of SDG&E, meaning that SDG&E would be collecting less than they should be according to their rates. This isn't the first time that we've had an issue with SDG&E's rate setting using outdated information. We previously had an experience in which SDG&E, its ERA application, used an outdated sales forecast number, and we were able to advocate for a change to that. Unfortunately, the Energy Division, the CPUC in this case, has reviewed this advice letter and indicated that they will deny the protests. And so the rates went into effect June 1st, 2022. The next slide, please. That rate reduction is about 4% reduction in SDG&E's generation rates. And I think it's important to point out that our view is that this is a temporary rate change. The rate decrease that just went into effect comes in an environment of increasing rates. And so SDG&E has a number of pending applications where they're proposing to increase rates. We did, in fact, receive a notice from SDG&E that they were, in fact, undercollected presently by $46 million in their main generating account, which is what we predicted in our protest. SDG&E also has a 2023 ERA forecast application in which they're proposing an average monthly bill increase of 3.2%. They also have a general rate case application that would increase rates 5.6% in 2024 and increasing rate increases over 5.6% in ensuing years. And it may be for these reasons that the state legislature has requested an audit of SDG&E's rates. And the San Diego legislators actually requested this audit, which was transmitted to the state auditor at the end of last month. And we are anticipating that audit to be completed in 12 months. So I'm going to hand it back over to Lucas to talk about SDG&E's actions, and happy to take questions at any point.
Ty, can I ask a question? When we
Absolutely.
talk about forecasting and that they forecast wrong, and that has the consequence of a rate adjustment downward, what numbers are they using and what numbers should they be using?
You know, I'm not exactly sure what number from what month or year they were using, Chair Mosca, but I know they weren't using the most current number. And so we can get back to you with information about what specific number that they were using, but we had a more current number that they should be using.
But so,
Actually,
so
from their
their,
material.
but their forecast is that there are more customers and greater sales.
They're using an outdated forecast that understates their sales, I believe. And so their rates are a little bit too high, or I'm sorry, a little bit lower than should be anticipated.
So is this a similar forecasting issue that they had previously?
Correct. It's not exactly the same issue.
Right.
And so but we do see I mean, there, to the extent that there's an outdated number that's being used, that we've identified, it is a similar problem that we encountered previously.
Right. All right. And then what was the rationale in terms of the denial of the protest by the CPUC?
We haven't actually seen a disposition letter yet from the Public Utilities Commission. It's just, but it is our understanding and speaking with staff that they will deny it. So we don't know what the stated rationale is going to be just yet.
But they haven't, but they've allowed the rate adjustment to go into effect.
Correct.
Right.
So the remedy, Chair Mosca, if they were going to deny SDG&E's rate decrease request, they would sort of more or less retroactively deny those rates going into effect.
All right. What would be the rationale for not if their forecast is wrong and it's basically saying that it should be adjusted downward, but everything that we see says that it should be adjusted upward. What's the remedy here? I mean, when is there a rationale that at some point that this is all going to be trued up or something?
Yeah, absolutely, Chair Musk. I think we expect some changes as soon as January 1st. SDG&E's ERA forecast application will be decided. Typically, they're decided for rates to go into effect January 1st. Sometimes that slips to February 1st. And we do expect, given SDG&E's application, that there will be some type of correction at that point. And when these other applications are approved, and if SDG&E is successful in securing the rate increases that are proposed, we will also see rate increases, coming on periodically after that due to these other applications being resolved.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ty at this point?
Great, thanks, Ty, and thanks, Chair Mosca. So with regards to what does this all mean for SCCP customers, Kimberly, do you mind going to the next slide, please? So as a function of this rate adjustment by SDG&E on June 1st, our base level power on, which is 50% renewable, is now 1% more expensive than SDG&E's base product. That is at 31% renewable. While obviously in terms of what we've been able to analyze, this equates to a few cents to $1 for an average customer. Our rates still remain competitive. However, the one thing that we would definitely like to articulate to the customers is the fact that we believe this rate reduction is temporary. And as such, if and when customers do elect to opt out of SCCP service, they have to be cognizant of the fact that they will be required to stay under SDG&E bundle service for 12 months, such that when the rate adjustments upwards occur, they're not going to have a framework to return back to SCCP service. Moving over to the next slide, please. We're also required to publish a joint rate mailer and a joint rate comparison, spelling out the rate comparisons between us and SDG. This is a snippet of what the rate comparison for tier DR1, which is our most populous residential rate, is going to look like. You can clearly see the SDG&E based product that is 31% renewable being about 90 cents cheaper than our power on. But again, we just want to stress the fact that this is a temporary rate reduction. And as such, the if customers were to elect to opt out as a function of this rate differential, that the 12-month minimum stay requirement to be on bundle service will ensue, such that when the rate adjustment by SDG&E in 2023 occur, they're not going to have an option to come back to us at that point in time. So all that to say is we would like to arm our customers with the requisite information for them to make an informed decision, not only in the short term, but also across the longer term in 2023 in particular, when those rate adjustment upwards by SDG&E are projected to occur. Moving over as far as what we've done to equip our customers with this pertinent information, we have equipped our contact center with the talking points to articulate the nuances around the rate trajectory, not only in the short term, but also in the long term. We've also rolled out a summer readiness webpage on our website that essentially articulates tips for customers to save on their summer bills. We are also running a Did You Know social media campaign, essentially educating our customers on the nuances associated with our with the rate trajectory, such that they have the information at their fingertips to make the right decision long term. We're also looking to send the joint rate mailers next month that will denote the side-by-side comparison between SDCP and SDG&E. And then last but not least, we definitely want to stress the fact that we do have a much more superior product that is more renewable. And we will be announcing a partnership with Connect at some point next week that essentially will help customers get smart thermostats and reduce and help them with the bill savings in the summer. And that actually wraps up our presentation for the day. We obviously looking forward to any questions or comments that we can address right now.
Thank you, Lucas, and thank you, Ty. I think it's critically important to level with folks about the summer rates that have just gone into effect. I think that's what, you know, when I get emails and calls from people, it's really regarding the summer rates that have just gone into effect for all utility customers. And I think it's important that we're letting people know that, you know, the high energy consumption in the summer drives these higher rates for all utility customers. And it's important to let them know what they can do to actually save so that they're not having these high bills. You know, I think we also have to I think we should put it on our list to work with SDG&E about these forecasts, because I'm getting a bit tired of these forecasts being completely off, not only for our customers, but also for the bundle customers, for SDG&E customers. Because if, you know, this is true, what's going to happen is that the bundle customers, the SDG customers, are going to see some steep increases as of January, and that's just not fair. And so I think that we should be working together to make sure that this forecast is proper, and that we don't have these rates that are just that don't make any sense. And so, anyways, that's my 2 cents. Make sure that we're communicating on the summer rates. People know how to consume less energy in the summer because the rates are higher. And we need to do something about this forecast coming out of SDG&E that historically seems to be inaccurate. Any questions or comments for Lucas or Ty? Director LaCava?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ty and Lucas, for the great presentation. Just one question. The sample that you showed in terms of the rate structure and comparison, that 90 cents that for the comparison, is that for all the different tiers that an individual or resident or businesses might have? Or is that just kind of a representative one?
Hey there, Kalakawa. Thank you for the question. So this is actually specific to just this rate that is tier DR1. And again, this is our most populous residential
Okay.
rate in our jurisdiction. Obviously, what you're seeing here, this is just the end product behind the scenes. There is actually a breakout between winter and summer, on peak and off peak and super off peak that has been aggregated to provide a summer depiction of what an average customer under this rate should expect to see going forward.
Yeah. You know, what I like, it just as a reminder, you know, Karen and I were at Biocom earlier today, and, you know, I don't think we can emphasize enough the difference between San Diego Community Power and SDG&E. You know, staff brings this as part of an open public hearing to have this discussion. We're not hiding this, we're not running away from it. We're openly discussing it. And I'm pretty sure SDG&E didn't open their doors to anybody when they made their decisions or how they were making their decisions. And I don't think we can't do too much in terms of really emphasizing the difference. Now, the average person may say, I don't care, I just care about another dollar in my pocket. But I think it will begin to resonate over time as we continue to show a superior product and the very public way in which we identify rates, identify issues, resolve them, come to solutions that are good for everyone. So I appreciate the presentation and the candor and what this is all about, and look forward to the campaign to inform our customers going forward. And like I said, as the chair said, I hope, you know, nobody gets bitten by this false promise of a temporary reduction. That clearly is just, we're talking about pennies. So thank you, Chair. I don't think there's any action required on this one. Am I
No,
right?
there isn't. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Director Baber.
To Lucas, thank you for the yellow card meme. I got the meaning. I know that was probably for me. And for Ty, maybe you said this, or maybe it was in the subtext. What are the other two IOUs doing with these summer rates, and how did the other community energy JPAs respond throughout the state? Or is this uniquely San Diego Gas and Electric?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Director Baber. The other IOUs, you know, change their rates differently than SDG&E, and each IOU sets their rates independently. So we're not in an apples to apples situation with other IOUs or with other CCA programs in that way. You know, definitely, certainly other CCA programs have dealt with this issue before when the rates, when the utility rates pushed lower than the CCA rates. And I think there's been a host of strategies that have been developed, including educating the public and so forth, and they're, you know, pushback at the regulatory agency as well. So I think there's a whole suite of things that can be done around that. Certainly a lot of CCA programs did what we did, file a protest and, you know, engage in a campaign to try and get the commission to reverse its decision or to you know, side with us. So that's a, you know, tried and true approach that we certainly took. But in terms of, you know, the other aspects that outside the regulatory space, I think some of the personal to other programs, I'm sure Luke's been in touch with them to talk about this sort of thing. You know, develop strategies to reach out to the public and you know, also strategies for future rate setting around this.
Thank you, Ty.
All right, any other questions for Lucas or for Ty? Kimberly, do we have any comments by the public?
Yes, we have two hands raised, starting with Matthew Vasilakis.
Sure.
Matthew, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Kimberly. Good evening. This is Matthew Vasilakis with Climate Action Campaign, dialing in to express our grave concerns over SDG&E's recent successful efforts to undermine SDCP by artificially and temporarily reducing their rates during a critical enrollment phase and mailing period. As the staff report on the June rate setting case makes clear, SDG&E is making headway in creating real reputational risk by compromising SDCP's cost competitiveness this year by taking advantage and manipulating CPUC processes, something they have attempted in the past and are now successfully achieved. We urge the board to reach out to SDG&E and ask why SDG&E is working against the community to undermine SDCP's competitiveness with an artificial rate decrease right before the rate comparison mailers are set to arrive in your constituents' mailboxes next month. We understand that SDCP must have a working relationship with SDG&E, but these antics are neither honest nor helpful in moving our region forward to achieving our collective clean electricity and climate goals. We ask the board to pay attention to this issue, and we thank SDCP staff and consultants for their tireless work and attentiveness to redress this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Next is Curtis Dowds. Curtis, you
Yeah.
have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Do I have to unmute again or?
We can hear you.
I guess I'm good. Basically, my first question or my first point was going to be the one that the gentleman just made. It strikes me that you're being manipulated. I would not talk to SDG&E to quash their manipulations. That's a completely political matter, and I think you need to take it up with the state legislature and the governor's office. I don't see how talking to SDG&E is going to get you anywhere. They're the people that are trying to undermine you, and it seems that they're cherry picking the data to make their case for these rate reductions. And obviously, the CPUC is buying their story and not listening to you. So I would suggest you need to think about it as a political matter and approach it in that way. And then the second question I had for Lucas would be the form that you're using to do these rate comparisons are this mirroring issue that I'm a bit concerned about. And I'm wondering, is this a format that is imposed upon you outside by the CPUC and by the way you're regulated? Or is it your choice? Is it our choice as SDCP to present these side-by-side comparisons in this way?
Thank you, Curtis. Thank you for your public comment. Lucas, is it regulatory regulations that requires us to have this comparison?
Hey, Chair Mosca, thank you. And thank you, Dr. Dowds, for the wonderful question. The statutory requirement by the CPUC is for us to publish a joint rate comparison every single time either the CCA or SDG&E or an IOU changes or adjusts rates. But the question around, does the format need to be this way? That piece is obviously up to the discretion of the CCA in terms of the rate design and the rate carve outs. Obviously, as it pertains to the board, the CCAs have jurisdiction in their rate setting autonomy for the most part. We're not required to adhere to the CPUC's rate design framework or mechanics. But in terms of the publication of the joint rate comparison, that is a statutory requirement within 60 days of a rate adjustment by either party.
Great. And as has been said, it's an interesting timing here. And so Curtis, good question. If you have some feedback that you want to email to Lucas, I'm sure Lucas can take that feedback and take a look and redesign if the feedback is good and helpful. All right, let's move on, bring it back to the board. This is a receive and file. Unless there's any other questions or comments on this item, I'm going to move on to item number 11. Vice Chair Padilla, see your hand up.
Yeah, just briefly. I mean, I think it's just the exchange we heard just now between some of the public comment and very learned public comment and Lucas, who does fantastic work.
Vice Chair Padilla, your volume, it's kind of faint.
Let me see if I can do something with that. Sorry about that. Is my audio any better now?
You're better. It's better.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Keeps resetting itself every time I utilize it. I would just suggest that, our challenge is finding a simplified and easy way to effectively communicate in scenarios like this, where we have an interim filing that results in a competitive or perceived competitive advantage for the IOU, and consumers are asking the top line question only. That number looks better than your number, and they don't go much deeper than that. And that's because the regulatory structure constrains us in what how we can address this as community power. There, to put it in its simplest terms, in scenarios like this, we're limited by the regulatory structure in what we can and can't do about it. What we can do about it is effectively communicate with our account holders in better and better ways. And I think that really needs to be where we're focusing, is taking something incredibly complex and explaining it in a way that mitigates against the bleed out, which I think is one of the considerations here for some others, in recapturing account holders and having them hostage for a period of time, in part, among many other considerations for the IOU. So I just think our focus needs to really be on how we can do better and better at communicating how this process works, what it really means, and what the risks are to the consumer in the long run. That is really the most powerful thing we can do about the scenario. And I just want to reemphasize that.
Right. Good comment. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, let's move to item number 11. And this is San Diego Community Power election regarding voluntary allocation of renewable energy from SDG&E. And I believe that General Counsel had a small amendment to this, which is it's to approve staff's recommendation regarding long-term, not short-term elections for voluntary allocations of renewable energy from SDG&E. Is that correct, General Counsel?
Yeah, I apologize, Mr. Chair, board members. There's been a little back and forth on this. We will be asking, as you'll hear in Mr. Vosberg's presentation, that you approve of the long and short-term voluntary allocation. But tonight, we would ask that you delegate authority to execute as appropriate the pro forma contracts associated with the long-term transactions for renewable energy. So you'll be asked to approve the long and short-term election, which is 100% and zero. But before you tonight is only the long-term contracts, since the 0% election does not require any contract with SDG&E. So I know that's a little bit complicated, but I know Mr. Vosberg could explain that probably better than I can.
All right, well, let's go to Byron Vosberg, and then we'll come back to you, Ryan, General Counsel Barron, if there are any further questions for about what we're actually voting on.
Great.
Byron?
Yeah, good evening, board, and thanks, Ryan, as well for that introduction. I thought we might be done with that, or do we need more? I'll try to go a little more in depth here. Next slide, please, Kimberly. So there's, and like Ty did as well, I'll ask you to forgive a little foray here into regulatory world, even though I really try to steer clear of that on the procurement side here. But this is a heavy regulatory item for us as well. So without going too far in the weeds, you'll recall that the PCIA, Power Charge and Difference Adjustment, is the exit fee that our customers pay to SDG&E for resources that were procured on their behalf before they left SDG&E service for us. Through this proceeding, for years now, there's been a lot of back and forth around what happens to those actual resources and those attributes, not just the above market costs, which our customers pay, but what happens as well with the attributes and the benefits from all those resources as well. So there's been a years-long process to try to get an allocation of some sorts for a number of different products, for resource adequacy, for energy attributes, for renewable energy attributes, to at least have the option to elect that, and for some of those products to come to our customers as well. So there was, again, a multi-year process that culminated in 2021 with at least agreement around renewable energy being allocated from SDG&E, excuse me, to us, to follow our customers as they're paying for the above market costs of these resources. They might as well have the option to take these resources as well. So that was ordered in 2021, and then we've really spent the last year and a half kind of implementing this process as well. So there's, for a few different reasons, there's a distinction made between long-term resources and then short-term resources. We'll get into that in a little bit. But we basically have the option now to elect to take an allocation of resources from SDG&E from this resource pool that they procured on behalf of our customers before they left SDG&E service for us. And we can differentiate between the long-term and again, and the short-term resource pools. And I'll note as well that we foresaw some form of this process occurring last year when we were negotiating the long-term renewable contract with SDG&E that we reviewed with you all in August and that we signed in December of last year. So that contract has already been signed. It's the allocation now will kind of flow through that contract which we signed last year. So that's really the main point we're here for tonight, is to make that election and then to set the volumes in that long-term contract that we've already signed. So I think we can move forward, please, to the next slide, Kimberly. Thank you. So I do want to touch on a few considerations here just to set the groundwork. The primary value for us in these allocations is to ensure compliance with long-term contracting requirements that SB 350, the PUC in this implementation of SB 350 puts on load serving entities or utilities or CCAs. And the specifics here are that starting in compliance period 4, which began in 2021 last year, all utilities, all load serving entities, of which we're one, must buy at least 65% of their renewable energy from long-term contracts of at least 10 years. And so that's this year, or in this compliance period, it's about 40% of our total load must be served from renewable energy, and 65% of that 40% needs to be on long-term contracts. So for those organizations, utilities, CCAs that have been stood up for a long time now, that's not that tall a lift. They've had plenty of time to prepare for this and have their long-term contracts online. We are in a bit of a different position now as well, where we started serving customers last year. We ran an RFO for long-term resources in 2020, even for seeing this as well and bringing resources online. But there's a 2 or 3 year development window between when you can actually sign a contract or go out for contracts and then sign a long-term contract for new build resources, and then to have it actually developed and be online to deliver to our customers. So we're in the tough spot where there's no grace period in this long-term contracting requirement. So even though we started serving customers just last year, and our resources will be online to serve them, at least the first subset of them will be online next year in 2023. We still need to meet the long-term compliance requirements for the whole compliance period of 2021 to 2024. So this allocation actually gives us an opportunity to meet those compliance targets without buying way more renewable energy than we need just in 2024 to kind of make up for shortfalls that we might have in 21 and 22. So again, it's really, really important to us to comply with the long-term compliance targets that the PUC has set on us here. And I'll note that if any shortfall would be a $50 per megawatt hour penalty. So in addition to reputational impacts, and also just it's squarely outside of the way we operate to be non-compliant. There would be huge financial penalties as well for being short on the compliance side. So I think that's a fair enough background. I'll pause for questions there if there are any, but if not, I'll keep moving. Great.
Any questions?
Okay, next slide then, please, Kimberly. So the other thing, another consideration here as well in the top bullet point is that our long-term compliance is it's not down to a science yet. It's not down to I guess a precise science yet. Because these long-term compliance requirements are set based on all of the load that we serve between 21 and 2024. We are still enrolling customers this year. We just finished enrolling customers. We're still enrolling customers next year. So while we're diligently forecasting and working with customers to ensure we have a good sense of how many there'll be, what their load forecasts and what their load requirements will be, there's still some volume there of customer load that's still TBD. And then in addition, also with I'm sure you're all aware, we've all heard plenty about the supply chain impacts that are impacting every solar and storage facility being developed, globally right now is facing some kind of challenge or delay. So there are potential delays, as well in some of the resources that we do have coming online. So because of that, it really is time to be conservative from a compliance perspective to make sure that we don't leave things to chance or be in a situation where one project being delayed a few months due to supply chain impacts, again, would put us in a non-compliant circumstance. So we not only do we have the denominator, which is our target of total sales, is still moving here as we still are enrolling customers into next year, but we also then our the numerator as well, which is the amount of renewable energy we have online in 23 and 24 is still, with those resources still coming online, still a little bit uncertain as well. So I'll note the way this allocation works is that we do get a total slice of the full resource pool from SDG&E's portfolio. So it's not like we can pick and choose resources. We can't pick and choose resource types or the only real discretion we have is how much we want to take. And then we can choose from the long-term pool and or the short-term pool. So part of that we will do want to flag for awareness as well is that the total PCI portfolio does include out-of-state unbundled RECs or unbundled renewable energy. It's about 18% of SDG&E's total portfolio, the total renewable portfolio. And that's about 12% of the long-term contracts. About 37% of the short-term portfolio is made up of unbundled RECs. So again, we have no real choice in the matter. It's not like we can select bundled versus unbundled or wind versus solar. The only thing we can choose is long-term versus short-term. I'll note that SDG&E's unbundled resources were signed, well before all of the product content categories that kind of determine the rules now. PCC 1, PCC 2, PCC 3 were set, so they do get legacy treatment from purposes of RPS compliance, renewable portfolio standard compliance, and then for the power content label and power source disclosure, they also are given legacy treatment and are not assigned any emissions in those reportings as well. So they do appear close to bundled resources because they're given that legacy treatment from being assigned before the regulations were in place. But I will say they are still unbundled, and on the power content label they're flagged as unbundled renewable energy as well. So that's a share of the portfolio that if we take an election will come with it. But I'll note that, and again flag above that the long-term portfolio is a much smaller percentage of unbundled renewable energy than the short-term portfolio, and that'll drive our decision-making and our at least our recommendation to you all here in a minute. Next slide, please. So I think Ryan, Mr. Barron, sorry, teased this earlier, so no suspense, but the recommendation here is to accept all of the long-term allocation that we're eligible to take. Again, that has the much lower percentage of unbundled renewable energy, and also then allows us to comply with the long-term obligations for long-term compliance of long-term contracting, but then to elect to take none of the short-term allocation and then to find other bundled renewable energy to meet our short-term needs. Again, largely because that is significantly more unbundled renewable energy in that short-term allocation. So next slide, please, Kimberly. Thank you. So some details here. On the long-term allocation, again, the recommendation is to take 100% of the long-term allocation. It's about 2,900 gigawatt hours of renewable energy per year. It would start in next year. Our contract that we'll be working it into does start this year, but it'll set the volumes for that long-term contract starting in next year. And then the allocation volumes will continue through the life of those contracts into 2043, again, declining over time as those resources fall off. For reference, our total retail sales are over 8,000 gigawatt hours a year. Just to give you a scale of where we are and how much of our load will be met by these contracts. As I mentioned, the vast majority of this energy is from California interconnected solar and wind. There is one Montana wind project, and that's the unbundled one. That's about 12% of the portfolio. I bolded this point as well. This is really critical, is that this allocation will ensure our compliance with the compliance period 4, that's 2021 to 2024 long-term contracting requirement. Again, given the uncertainty, given that we don't have a grace period in meeting that while we get stood up, really feels like a necessary and prudent step to make here to ensure our compliance. And the next other caveats I'll mention down here as well are that I think this is really a foundation in some ways upon which to build our portfolio. So this is about, at least in the first couple of years, will be about 34% of our renewable energy of our energy needs. But as we build towards 50, we're currently at 50, as we build towards 75, 85, and then 100% renewable energy, this is really only kind of, I don't know, the down payment or the foundation of our portfolio upon which we can build and grow. And so I want to make clear, that this does not preclude us from doing a lot of the additional programming and renewable resource development that we're here to do. I think this is really just kind of sets a baseline, so to speak, and still allows us the additional 50, 60, 65% of the portfolio to fill. Portfolio our size, that's just nothing to sneeze at. So it really will be a significant amount of volume that we still have left to fill, and this is really just helping us meet compliance. Laying in a decent chunk for sure of renewable energy for a while, but then will allow us plenty of room to and won't preclude any of the additional procurement that we want to do down the road. I think there's one slide left. Is that right? Great, thank you. And so again, just to summarize here, the short-term allocation, we're recommending to take none of it. Just because it is nearly 40% unbundled renewable energy, which we try to steer away from. There are in that resource pool, there are 12 facilities, and most of them are in California, but again, a couple Montana wind out-of-state projects. And so the staff recommendation here is to forgo the short-term allocation and then to pursue other near-term procurement and from other existing facilities that's more, at least more, more bundled energy and less unbundled energy. So I think that's it. If that's right, Kimberly, you move to the next slide. Great, thank you. And so the recommendation is here. I'm happy to take questions as you all have them.
And Ryan, that recommendation on the screen, that's worded correctly.
Let me just simplify it, Mr. Chair. It would be to approve staff's recommended long and short-term elections for voluntary allocation of renewable energy from SDG&E and authorize the CEO to 1, notify SDG&E of SDCP's long-term and short-term voluntary allocation elections, and 2, execute as appropriate SDG&E's pro forma contracts associated with long-term transactions for renewable energy and RECs in substantially similar form as approved formed by legal counsel. So it would be omitting quote and short-term transactions in little Roman numeral 2.
I just want to make sure we get
perfect.
Sorry. I just want to make sure we get the motion correct for the record as well. And so that Kimberly notes that short term is at the latter part there too, and that doesn't belong there. All right, Byron, thank you so much. I mean, this is every time you present, it's really complicated stuff, and I thank you for walking us through it. I support your strategy. Thank you for coming up with the strategy and steering us in the right direction. And thank you for all the analysis. I mean, as has been said before, you said it tonight, there's no choice. Even though it says voluntary, it's actually involuntary. And so, because of compliance time periods and because of financial analysis, it makes sense to take a good amount of this. But I think the strategy that you've laid out makes a lot of sense. And so I support that strategy and steering away from a lot of the short-term biogas and other legacy products that they have that we certainly don't want to inherit. Anyways, any comments or questions for staff? Director LaCava. You're on mute, Director LaCava.
Years and still can't figure this out, right? Thank you, Byron. Thank you for the presentation tonight and then all the analysis and thought that went into it and everybody that worked on it. You probably said this, and I'm sure I missed it. This decision that we're making between short-term and long-term, does SDG&E have to accept that?
No, this is no. Basically, through this process, it's this is purely our. I think that's the voluntary part. I think it is voluntary to us that we can choose to take it. We can. There's been so much machination that's already been done on the regulatory front that once it finally comes down to us, it's kind of our opportunity to accept either the long or the short, and then in the numbers that we choose.
And as the chair said, I agree with this strategy. I'm going to ask one selfish question. We know that the city of Encinitas opted into Power 100 at the get-go. The city of San Diego is now proposing to move to 100% by 2030 instead of waiting till 2035. And so we would always appreciate that consideration as you make these decisions, but it sounds like we're still, that's still a very real possibility. We have obviously more procurement to identify in the years ahead, but I just want to put that little friendly reminder in there, so.
No,
but
appreciate that, Director. And we're not done yet. We still got some work to do, and we're well aware. We see 2035 as a as the must-have, but certainly we'll like to get there as soon as possible.
Again, great work for taking this complicated issue and really boiling it down for our understanding. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That's all my questions and comments, Chair.
All right, thank you, Director LaCava. Any other questions or comments for Byron? Let's go to public comment. Any, Kimberly, do we have any member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
Yes, Curtis Dowds has his hand raised. Curtis, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, I just have one question. In these procurement issues, do DER behind the meter solar quantities have anything to do with the matter? This is all remote solar, which has to move on SDG&E wires. Do we get credit for the amount of local renewable energy we're producing, or is that just a separate discussion altogether?
I think it's a separate discussion altogether. Byron, did you have any thoughts on that?
That's right, Chair. It's a separate discussion. Certainly as we develop our own resources, if they're CAISO interconnected, kind of wholesale, even on the small end of wholesale, it's a pretty straightforward process to certify them, in Regis and get credit on the renewable side. It's a much different conversation on the kind of the rooftop and like the residential rooftop, especially solar. So we can certainly look into that as we enroll those customers, maybe as our net energy metering program rolls out. We'll certainly be able to aggregate those for our I don't know for our account, so to speak, or for our accounting. But typically no, the rooftop solar, and that's not what we're talking about here. All the allocation from SDG&E will be the wholesale solar.
Right. All right. Kimberly, any other member of the public that wishes to comment on this item?
There are no additional hands raised.
All right, we'll bring it back to the board. Do we have a motion on item number 11? And I think Ryan has beat that horse dead in terms of what the recommendation is on the table.
So move, Sotelo Solis.
All right, so we have a motion by Director Sotelo Solis. I'll second the motion. So we have a motion and a second on the table. Let's vote.
Director Baber, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Dedina, how do you vote?
Dedina, aye.
Director LaCava, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Sotelo Solis, how do you vote?
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Vice Chair Padilla, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair Mosca, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries with all directors voting yes.
All right, well, that moves us to the bottom end of our calendar, and we have reports by our CEO and General Counsel. I'm going to start with our CEO, Karen Burns.
Hi, everyone can hear me, I hope. Yes, I'm now off mute. Okay, so good evening, board members, community partners, staff, and members of the public. Thank you for being here and thank you for your time. What I'm sharing with you tonight is what I hope will be the first of many monthly updates from me about some of the more exciting things we're doing here at SDCP. We've already discussed sort of the heavy and more serious items on the agenda. So now I'd like to lighten it up a little bit. Our talented team is doing many things to build our organization and live our mission and values. And we would like to share some of those highlights with you tonight. And so before I even start, I really want to thank our incredible team for organizing these events and activities and giving so much of their time and energy in service to our mission. First, a little reminder, SDCP is a values-led and mission-driven organization. And our vision, as adopted last month, is to be a global leader inspiring innovative solutions to climate change by powering our communities with 100% clean energy while prioritizing equity and high-quality jobs. And this is our adopted mission statement, who we are. This is our North Star. We look to this mission statement when making decisions on behalf of the organization. We are community owned, providing affordable clean energy, investing back into our community to create an equitable and sustainable future for San Diego. We truly have a dual mission, both to procure energy and to invest back into our local communities. And we take both very seriously. We also adopted our core values last month. These we refer to as the gist of SDCP. These are the values that guide us and that we live by and work by each and every day. When we are hiring, just as one example, we are evaluating candidates, not just on their skills and qualifications, but also based on their belief and commitment to our mission, as well as our core values. So the next few slides are going to highlight some of the ways in which we are living our core values in service to our mission. In support of our JEDI value, in June, during Pride Month, we attended and sponsored the San Diego Equality Awards. Our vice chair, Steve Padilla, was also the co-chair of this event. 2 additional members of our board, 3 members of our team, and the chair of our community advisory committee also attended. In July, our marketing team organized our participation in the San Diego Pride Parade. 20 of our team and their family members attended in support of the LGBTQ community. San Diego's Pride Parade is the largest single-day civic event in the region and is among the largest of the Pride Parades in the United States, attracting over 300,000 cheering supporters. We were excited and honored to take part in this year's Pride Parade and aim to continue to do that in the years to come. In support of our JEDI and impact values, we have begun building our community power plan. As you know, this plan will set out SDCP's 5-year vision and program strategy to address community needs, address climate change, produce economic benefits, pursue purposeful and focused investment, and center economic, environmental, and social equity. So we have begun engagement for an extensive community needs assessment with the help of the CBOs and to listen to understand. In fact, we are even doing one tonight. We have additional events planned coming up. Even right now, as we speak, we have a team of folks co-hosting a listening session with Casa Familia. Also, in support of our impact and togetherness values, this month, we launched a new partnership with the San Diego Wave FC. This is our local women's soccer team. And through valued partnerships like these, as well as with the Padres, International Airport, Illumina, and Sharp, we are building a community of business leaders. In support of our impact, launching next week, we are thrilled to announce a partnership with OhmConnect, a smart device demand response company that will get money, smart thermostats, and smart plugs into our customers' hands immediately. So as we're charting the region's long-term needs, we want to provide tools to help our customers save money and energy today, particularly as we head into the hottest months of the year. So the OhmConnect partnership will provide SDCP customers with a $50 OhmConnect wallet credit, smart thermostat for less than $40, with smart plugs at 99 cents. SDCP will also receive a donation of $5 for each customer that enrolls in the program. These funds will be used to support local community-based organizations to develop innovative grant programs and provide access to money and energy-saving devices to communities of concern. This partnership is just the first in a planned series of community events and investment programs. We are focused on delivering for our customers and fostering access to programs that can help drive a more equitable, efficient, and climate-friendly approach. In support of our servant leadership value, we will be speaking at several events in September with more opportunity to share out what we are doing in the community. We have more of these in the works as well. In support of our innovation value, we are hosting the first of what we hope will be a series of efforts to share innovative insights and opportunities from other CCAs with our team and partners here at SDCP. So on August 10th and 11th, multiple members of East Bay Community Energy are coming down here to workshop with us on local resource development, innovative business models for transportation electrification, building a world-class in-house data team, and risk management around the PCIA. We'll also take them to a Padres game as we are hosting the event. Also, in support of our innovation value, we are hosting several lunch and learns with innovative companies. 2 weeks ago, we hosted the vehicle to grid company Nuvei, who has a patented VDG technology that optimizes electric vehicle charging and increases the positive environmental impact that EVs can have through grid optimization and peak load shaving. On deck, we're hoping to meet with Grid Alternatives, Ivy Energy, NG, and more. In support of our togetherness value and using our mission as our North Star, I also wanted to share with you how we plan to lead SDCP into the next phase of its future. To call out just a few, we will lead with our core values and mission front and center. We will build a cohesive team and act as one, even as we voice concerns and engage in productive conflict. We will then create buy-in and support the decisions when they're made. We will establish fair and consistent processes and policies for everyone on the team and be accountable to one another, to the board, to the CAC, and to ourselves. And lastly, we will be biased towards action and relentless in our pursuit of making a positive impact on the planet and in our communities. In support of all of our values, this is just a brief snapshot of some of the activities we are working on over the next 90 days as we build our team, prepare to scale, and deliver substantial impact. So I'll highlight just a few of these that haven't been mentioned already. We are rapidly building our team, refining our organizational structure, and growing our talent. We anticipate that we will have almost doubled our team by this time next year. We are building our operational infrastructure, including a host of HR policies, infrastructure, and key operational processes. And we are preparing to deliver impact. We have taken our 7 key focus areas and associated organizational goals and have used them to guide our creation of an annual work plan for fiscal year 2023 that constitutes a host of individual SMART goals. We will then coordinate some of these SMART goals with the CAC to ensure additional alignment and clarity with their work plan. That's all I have for today. Again, I wanted to thank the board, the CAC, and especially the SDCP team who have worked so hard in service to our mission and have enabled so much of the activity you have just now seen.
Erin, thank you so much. I mean, this makes me so proud, honestly, just so extremely proud, you know, to have hired you in our organization, to be a part of this organization, to be where we're at and knowing where we started from. And I love the fact that we've kind of incorporated our strategic planning so quickly into what we're doing. And I love the values, everything that we're doing. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you to the team. We're putting together an amazing team that is such a creative, high caliber team that's working well together. So thank you for all of that.
What do you want, Joe?
I also am really happy about the fact that East Bay Community Power is coming down. That's going to be awesome, and really learning a lot from what they've done up there. I think that we have a lot to learn from organizations like that. So thank you for really bringing them down and having that kind of learning session. And then showing them some fun at Petco Park, where we power the lights, 100% renewable energy, right?
That's right.
Awesome, thank you. I see Director Tadina has his hand up.
I just want to
Have a
echo those
comment?
comments. First, outstanding presentation, and the number 2, outstanding work. It really shows the breadth of the kind of work you're doing in the community. I love the events. I love the fact we're now supporting the WAVE. I think Director Sotelo Solis maybe have suggested that, but anyway, really nice presence at the Pride Festival or the Pride Parade. I saw the San Diego Community Power tweet about the Green Summit, and I registered for it. I'll be attending that because I saw you were there. So that's great. But also, I really love this focus. It's the organizational development, our staff, right? Our impact, our, you know, and then really how we're going to move forward. So really thoughtful, excellent work, and really reflects the fact that you got to work, right? And you did that with your team. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Padilla.
I just want to associate myself, Chair, with your comments, with Director Tadina's comments. It's brings a smile and warms my heart to see a reiteration, a refocusing on the value we put in all of our amazing and talented staff. how grateful we are to have this collaboration, how grateful we have to be that I think we made a good decision in selecting our permanent CEO, who's already demonstrating great instincts and wisdom and leadership and refocusing and reinvigorating our organization's mission and trying to practice our values. And I'm very grateful for that. And I'm willing to support it in any way I can. And I'm really happy to see this and grateful.
Thank you. Director Sotelo Solis.
I'd like to echo the sentiments of all of my colleagues. Yay, yay, yay. We're moving forward in a very positive direction. Is any organization perfect? No. But you know what? We are doing it with enthusiasm, with very purposeful efforts. And I want to say, Karen, I really have appreciated seeing you at community events. That makes a difference, you know, and that was one of the things that I shared. You need to be present. You need to show up. And that's showing, again, the commitment of our organization to the communities that we serve. And at the end of the day, we all see ourselves as partners. And when you are there, it makes a difference. Secondly, to the staff, you guys are killing it. Thank you for, you know, doing an amazing job. We're still, again, in that, you know, growing pains portion, but you know what? That's part of an organization and we're doing amazing work. And I really can't wait to see us really blossom fully because National City still hasn't gotten, you know, involved just yet, you know, with the rollout that comes next phase. But I think we're rolling in the right direction. So thank you to Karen. Thank you to our entire team, to our board. You guys are rock stars as well. But I appreciate being on this board and really seeing how we are evolving. So thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director LaCava. Director, you're on mute.
You knew I was talking even with my mask on, didn't you? I didn't want to miss this opportunity to pile on with my colleagues here. These are great moments. We should celebrate them and recognize them because we think about, Karen, how long you've been on, which isn't very long now. And you've made the one of the things I paid particular attention to was the transition from the private sector to this kind of quasi-public agency. And you've done it with aplomb. Like everybody said, the staff that we have and that you're assembling, we owe so much to. They're really delivering for us on these very complicated issues. You know, everybody said back in the day when this idea first came across, you'd never be able to pull it off. And yet this amazing team were able to start up from just an idea. You heard me say this morning, but from an idea to a piece of paper to action in just a remarkably short amount of time. And we're still growing. We're still staffing up. We want to make sure we don't burn our amazing staff out and have the resources that we need to bring on those 2 additional members on board. But, you know, when these little bumps come along the way, the team's right there and knows how to react and how to respond and gives great advice to the board so that we can make informed decisions. So very, very grateful, very, very appreciative. So excited to be on this board and to serve with my colleagues here. But what a great team, what an amazing effort. So keep up the good work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director. Any other comments on Karen's report? All right, well, that was an excellent report, Karen. Thank you so much. Let's move to our General Counsel, Ryan Baring.
I have nothing to report, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move to director comments. This is an opportunity for my colleagues to make any comments they want to. It's also in the past, people have asked when they can raise issues for future agendas. This is also an opportunity if you wanted to hear something on a future agenda, you can always raise that issue here for a future agenda. So anybody want to say anything? Vice Chair Padilla, your hand's up. Was that up before or did you want to comment?
I apologize, that's up from before, and I'll let my remarks I just gave serve as my report as well.
All right. All right. Well, not seeing anybody raise their hands, I'm going to say thank you. Have a nice evening and see you guys again soon. I hope you guys are enjoying your summertime too. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks.